Bring in show music, please.
Today on Squawk Pod. Did we stick the soft landing? Did we make it? Investor and sports team owner Glenn Hutchins on the high stakes.
It is entirely possible that Jay Powell and the Fed pulled off a soft landing, and that would be historic.
And the business of artificial intelligence in healthcare. Steve MacMillan of diagnostic maker Hologic on new machines and a breast cancer awareness month reminder.
Breast cancer is eminently treatable when you catch it early.
Plus, the flooding post-Hurricane Helene continues, a massive strike of dock workers.
For every day that we're on a strike, it's going to take a week, apparently, to get the supply back online.
And remembering Charlie Hustle.
It just was like a real gut punch.
I'm CNBC producer Zach Vallese. It's Tuesday, October 1st. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Becky by in 3, 2, 1. Cue it, please.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We're live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Becky Quick, along with Joe Kernen and Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Save our future! Save our jobs! Save our no work without fair contract! Save our future!
Let's talk about the strike because it's going to be the big news of the day, the week, and depending on how long it goes, maybe the month. The union workers, dock workers at 36 ports from Maine to Texas began walking picket lines earlier this morning. The pickets began just after midnight after talks between the International Longshoremen's Association and the United States Maritime Alliance failed to yield a new contract. Now, a last-ditch effort by ports ownership was rejected by the union. That happened yesterday. That offer included a wage hike of nearly 50% over 6 years. The dock workers are now pushing for a raise of more than 70% with protections for workers against automation. We're going to have a lot more on the story throughout the morning. And for every day that we're on a strike, it's going to take a week, apparently, to get the supply back online. So the sort of knock-on effects are quite remarkable. Something like $5 billion a day.
Right. It's something that is a bit of a, as we've got 5 weeks left into the election, people are going to be watching this
Talking
very
about
closely.
inflation,
Tonight
everything
you have
else,
the vice
yes.
presidential debate. Could bring back people's memories pretty quickly of some of the shortages we faced during the pandemic.
You got to think it through because talk about inflation, but when we've talked about it, we export too from those ports.
Yeah.
So there's deflation because we're not going to export pork and beef. So
although it seems like it'd be
large
tough to
supplies
find.
of pork and beef around. And
It might take a little time for that to
Right.
Can't, like
work
how
its way
long?
in.
You don't
Yeah.
want beef that. Oh yeah, it's
It's
fine.
bad.
It's been around for a month, sitting in a
Right.
port. So I mean, could be, both effects.
The death toll has now topped 130 people, and North Carolina's governor is warning that it will probably rise as the search for missing people continues. Officials are asking travelers not to come into the region to keep the roads clear for emergency vehicles. More than 50 teams are searching the region for stranded people, but that task has been complicated by destroyed roads and bridges everywhere. President Biden plans to visit the area tomorrow. He'll be taking an aerial tour of Asheville and receive a briefing by the Emergency Operations Center in Raleigh. But again, the picture is devastating coming out of here, hearing some of the reports of bodies that have been found in cars and in trees. Horrific damage that's been done.
When we drive down to Georgia, we go through North Carolina, and I don't think we get anywhere near Asheville because it's mostly
No, it's a couple hours east.
It's in the middle of the country.
A couple hours west.
It's in the middle of the country. It's so strange. This is a water flooding event, although all the things I'm getting from Georgia where I have some property was a wind event. There's not
this
a water
was a storm
event,
that had
but
wind, water, rain, and the storm surge that came with it. This was massive on all three counts.
But the storm surge isn't where this is the water that happened in, I guess, low-lying areas of.
But the area had been very dry before that, too. So
Right.
it was dry land that it was landing on, but massive amounts of rain that came with Hurricane Helene.
But it's so far west. I didn't even realize North Carolina went that far west. But it's unfortunately, I don't know what happened in high school and grade school, but my geography's not great sometimes. When you look at things, isn't it? It's like, oh, my God, look where North Carolina heads so far west. And Pete Rose has died. He's baseball's career hits leader, but was banned from the sport for gambling. For years, he denied that he bet on baseball, but admitted in 2004 that he did, but said at the time never against his own team. Nicknamed Charlie Hustle, Rose was known for his gritty style of play. And off the field, after his ban, he faced legal troubles. He spent time in prison from July 1990 to January 1991 after he pleaded guilty to tax evasion. And Rose obviously grew up on the west side of town of Cincinnati, where I grew up, and was admitted into the Reds Hall of Fame in 2016. He was 83 years old. I was home last night, and my son yelled out, "Pete Rose died." And I was surprised at my reaction because it was...
Teared up?
I didn't really tear up. It just was like a real gut punch because, and it's not necessarily, he was a complex man and a very difficult man to, sometimes to, some of the other things in his life that probably weren't very admirable that he did. But 4,250 hits, when a guy gets 200 hits in a year, it's a big deal. Mm-hmm. That's a career of 20 years of getting 200, more than 20 years to beat Ty Cobb and to get to that point. And, you know, he always said his father, he didn't have a lot of talent, but he ran out every pop fly and I realized why it hit me, because he's been such a, I mean, I had his rookie baseball card in 1963 or 1964. I was at the All-Star game where he ran into Ray Fosse. And in an All-Star game, he was playing so hard that he ruined a guy's career, basically. I mean, he was just playing hard. Buddy Harrelson, I think, was 1973 with the Mets, and the Mets made the postseason yesterday, so this is the same day. And Pete Rose appeared the day before yesterday in Nashville with Davey Concepcion, George Foster, Tony Perez, and Ken Griffey Sr. And all those guys were, then he was in a wheelchair getting a picture taken. But, you know, I used to see him around the west side of town. It was just very weird for me to hear it. It wasn't really that I was, you know, going to tear up. It was just, he was just such a huge part of every stage of my life. When I was at college, 75 and 76, watching, if you needed a hit, Pete Rose would deliver a hit in the World Series if you needed to win. And then I saw Phillies people trying to take credit for Pete Rose. That irritated me yesterday on Twitter. All these pictures of him in the Phillies, we never really got over that when he went with the
look, it says something that lots of places want to claim credit for him. It's
right, but
especially after everything.
Right. And I thought about calling Johnny.
Johnny Bench.
Johnny had a mixed, loved him, but was well aware of some of the stuff as well. And I said, no,
imagine the gut check.
We shouldn't do a phone. But it's like the thing we talked about yesterday, ask not for whom about. I mean, it's just, it happens to everyone eventually. And now it's going to, I mean, how many of these guys, they're all going to be in their 80s eventually. And if you're in your 80s, each year that you go further, unless you're Jimmy Carter, God bless him, he's 100, I think, today. Yeah. But, so I'm still trying to, and my son and my wife.
So you did talk to Johnny Bench about it?
I didn't talk to him. I thought about calling him, and then I just, and whether we should have him on, but then I don't know. But it was weird, my reaction. I'm sad. I was saddened. That's all I can, it's the only way to describe it.
It's passage of time.
Right? But he was such a every stage of.
You're the first person I thought of when I heard the news.
Yeah, because he's from the west side of town, went to Western Hills High School, grew up in Sailor Park. And he was, he was not born with all this talent. He was just Charlie Hustle. That's what he did. I took a picture in Cincinnati. There's a statue of him diving into the plate, and I know that. got next to it and tweeted that out. But, oh, well. God, R.I.P. Rest in peace.
Tease will be next.
Coming up, North Island Chair Glenn Hutchins on inflation, the economy, and who he's supporting in the 2024 election.
I look at the kind of tax policies and spending policies and the philosophy behind them that have been proposed by the Trump and Harris campaigns. I come down on the side of the Harris campaign.
Squawk Pod will be right back. This is Squawk Pod.
Up and Andrew, Q.
You're watching Squawk Box right here on CNBC. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin along with Joe Kernen and Becky Quick.
We want to get right to our next guest. He's joining us right now to talk about the markets, the Fed, much more. Of course, North Island Chairman Glenn Hutchins is with us this morning. And Glenn, it has been way too long since we've gotten to hear from you about so many things that are happening with the economy and beyond right now. Welcome. Thanks for coming in.
It's great to see all you guys. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be back.
It's great to see you, too. I will say Joe started with congratulations in his roundabout way.
Exactly.
Thank you, Joe.
Finally did it.
It was a big, we're there.
Celtics.
For people who aren't watching
Celtics.
Celtics NBA championship.
Have we not seen you since then?
You haven't?
not,
No.
yeah.
I took off the rest of my life. But 3 weeks from tonight, Joe, we raise the banner and get our rings.
You do.
In Boston, playing against the New York Knicks.
Because I've seen you at all the games.
I didn't miss a single one, that's for sure. But on
TV.
the wonderful ladies in the green room here. I promised to bring the ring back to show.
We named it the green room. We named it the green room for you.
Yeah, exactly. The green room. I didn't like it. Good idea.
we did.
I have to call it
Used to
the
be-
Emerald Green Room.
Yeah.
But I'm going to come back with the ring. So in 3 weeks. So if you want me to come
don't
show
you
it to you on
Show
set,
us.
I'll
Come
be
show
happy
us.
to come do that.
We definitely want to see
You've had
that.
the other one on.
I did, but I came here without it today,
I noticed,
Joe,
no ring, yeah.
because I got an
Putin's
empty
got it.
spot. I got an empty spot. I'm waiting for the new one.
Putin stole it.
Anyway, Glenn, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
the Celtics.
Thank you.
We've
Thank
been
you.
watching
It's
from
great to be here.
afar.
It was a wonderful accomplishment.
Let's talk a little bit about the Fed front and center.
Okay.
Because you are somebody who, again, has been on the board at the New York Fed and has watched through to see what happens. We saw the rate cuts come in, 50 basis points. The market kind of thought, okay, maybe this is the beginning of another big thing. More rate cuts to come. Jay Powell basically said yesterday, the chairman of the Fed, that we're going to see how the economy goes, and we will determine from there. What's your take on what the Fed's next action might be, what the economy looks like right now?
It's a good question, Becky. So, unusually for me, as I was thinking about my prior appearances here, I think the markets have the Fed's posture about right. I don't think they're over tight or over short. I think there's a little bit of concern on the downside for some unemployment risk. One of the things I think I'm a little bit on the other side of that I'm a little bit concerned about right now is this strike that you've been reporting on.
Yeah.
At our center at Brookings, Ben Bernanke did a big study, concluded that the biggest contributor to the inflation was a supply shock. The COVID-related inflation. So if we get another supply shock, that could, I'm worried it might challenge supply chains. But I think overall, I think the Fed's in the right place, and the 50 basis point I interpreted as putting an insurance cushion underneath the economy so that we don't run into this negative territory with unemployment. But I think the most important thing here, and I think the markets have it about right, but the most important thing here is it is entirely possible that Jay Powell and the Fed pulled off a soft landing. And that would be historic. And there were a lot of skeptics who said they couldn't do it. And I think if we actually get through this without a recession, that will have been, I think, a historic achievement. And it's a testimony to the importance of an independent Fed. Really, really important. Imagine if elected politicians had been in charge of interest rates over the last couple of years and where our inflation might be today. Might look more like our budget deficit rather than the place we've gotten to. So I think Fed independence, one, Jay Powell's skillful and his team's skillful management of this episode is really impressive.
How long do we have to go before we really declare mission accomplished on that front?
I'm tempted to use the word transitory, but I guess that wouldn't be useful.
Because eventually there will be a recession.
Right, you can't
there will
put
be
it
a
off for
recession. But if
forever.
we get through, I think, if we get into 2025,
Yeah.
There's a narrative.
then you're in business cycle territory as opposed to interest rate lines.
And there is a narrative that while inflation wasn't transitory, that it was supply chain related post-pandemic. So you could have expected, you can give credit to the Fed, or you can give credit to, a lot of people give credit to, believe it or not, to the Biden administration for how they handled it. So I'm not sure who gets credit for inflation.
Well, I'm not sure if we need credit here, but my point is there's a study that Ben Bernanke and a fellow by the name of Olivier Blanchard, who's sort of the Ben Bernanke of Europe. He's the other economist, Nobel Prize quality economist. The two of them got together, did this study under our center at Brookings. And they concluded, very academic, highly geeky stuff, but they concluded that the inflation associated with the pandemic was largely the result of a supply shock. Right. That was then followed by labor market adjustments associated with it. And they found very little power from the stimulus spending that occurred. Other than it,
Then you didn't need the Fed to tighten conditions.
and then you need, but
You did not need
once
them.
you
That
get
would have happened anyway.
But once you get inflation expectations in the economy,
You need the Fed.
you need the
to
Fed.
dampen them.
So for sure, you can't let that get out of it. It takes it.
It certainly
gets
didn't
contagious.
dampen the market.
The
though.
strike that's taking
Animal
place
spirits.
right now, how long would they say it would take before that creates a similar supply shock? I mean, are we talking
I don't think it will.
2 weeks, 6 weeks?
I don't
2
know,
months?
Becky. It's a good question. My sense is, I raise it only to just keep your eye on it. If it gets extended and if it spreads, it feels to me like it's contained both in terms of geographic and probably time, but it's just something to keep your eye
If you
on.
believe that the inflation we saw over the last 4 years was supply shock induced as it relates to the pandemic, then how do you measure? I mean, this goes back to the politics of this moment. How do you measure this economy?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
How do you measure the success of this economy? Do you say this is
You'd say
a
that the-
spectacularly successful economy?
You'd say that the problem with wages keeping up wasn't the Biden administration's fault, that inflation has been up 20%. You'd say that it was already going to happen.
This was kind of
what you would
baked in.
say.
There was some modest contribution to the last stimulus thing.
Yeah.
But I think the
I
stimulus
think that too many dollars chasing
it was an issue, but it
supply.
wasn't. There's no doubt that was an issue, but it wasn't the predominant issue. It wasn't why inflation took off.
never
Look, I
know.
think the economy's in very good shape. Jay Powell says it. I ran into two Squawk Box regular guests. I'm not going to see who they are. Just walking down the street here. Both of them said, "Tell them the economy's good."
Right.
Larry Fink said it yesterday. He
Larry
said
Fink-
that
No,
we're
it's
not
what
even
he said.
exaggerating.
But,
we've had these debates
I know,
on the air where
being-
others say it's terrible. So
I
don't think it's terrible, but
people that can't buy groceries.
Yeah, no, the macroeconomic statistics are good, right? But underneath the covers there are some very serious issues with people we have to worry about. No doubt about that. The lower end of the marketplace is something where people are having also the indicia. This is why the 50 basis point reduction, right? Because you've got signs of weakness. And by the way, when the elephant stands only, the grass gets hurt, right? The people at the bottom end of the socioeconomic spectrum are going to be those that are hurt first. And those are the ones I think we should care the most about because the others of us can take care of ourselves.
Right.
And so that's
you should never have a mission accomplished banner because the next thing you know, you turn around and you have a horrible labor report or something, and the lag
absolutely right.
effects of 500 basis points might be
Okay,
still
so-
hidden.
It's entirely possible, as you said, we get into the next year and we're in recessionary conditions.
How do you analyze this election then, and the two candidates and their economic policies, and how it deals with, to the degree you think you care about people that are struggling at the bottom of this wage issue?
And we understand you're a longtime Democrat, but
Yeah, I'm a longtime Democrat, that's right, but I'm a moderate Democrat. For instance, I was just talking to someone yesterday. I would like to have seen my friend Mitt Romney be president in 2016. I hear a lot of 16.
I thought you meant
Not
2012.
16.
What
It was his
what
turn
was wrong
in
with
16.
2012?
Yeah, well,
that would have been
because
maybe
my-
a better.
because
A lot
my
of people
bet-
think
my
that would have been
better-
a better time, much better time for him to be president.
Much better friend Barack Obama was going to win that election. And people around town here say very good things about Nikki Haley, and I've got my eye on her. But right now we have a choice, right? It's no longer theoretical. It's a binary choice between Trump and Harris. And obviously, I think for a whole host of issues, I prefer Harris. On the economic side, there are a whole bunch of issues other than economics where I think I would prefer her around abortion, healthcare, immigration, climate change, those sort of issues.
Right.
We can come back to those
But what
later.
about on the economy?
But on the economics, I think the first place to start is the place where I just mentioned earlier, which is the independence of the Fed. She's very clearly supporting the independence of the Fed. Trump is not. I think that's a very big deal. On tariffs, I think that tariffs are a very bad idea. They are a regressive tax. They hurt the people, the grass that the elephants are dancing on. It's a regressive tax on consumption. It's inflationary.
What do you think about the tariffs that we currently have in place right now?
I would personally like
under
to
the
find
Biden
a way to
administration?
roll them back. I think tariffs should be used surgically and very infrequently.
You haven't heard Harris say that she plans to roll them back.
I'm saying I would
Right.
prefer,
Okay.
but she's also not saying she wants to increase in tariffs that Trump does. I mean, it's about. Would
you get rid of the filibuster?
I do policy, not politics.
Now you do Okay, when the questions get tough, then you don't do.
No, I'm not licensed.
How about?
I'm not licensed.
Would you
to do politics.
you think we should raise the corporate tax rate?
It's interesting. So I came on this show when Trump cut taxes, and I had written an article, and I also told you I opposed it. because
You called it a sugar high.
I called it a sugar high, but I also said we were stimulating into an economy that didn't need stimulus.
Did you say that when Biden did it or no?
No, well, you didn't. I said I just said on the stimulus policy that it was probably too much. So I just said it now on the show, right?
A little bit.
Okay.
Let's time about saying.
My gold standard, Joe, for fiscal policy.
Yeah.
Is the Clinton administration, when we had a fiscal stance that balanced the budget, that saw good economic growth.
Newt Gingrich
that
is
saw
retired.
Low inflation.
Newt's retired.
I know. And saw record markets.
Right.
And so I think anything that's within the boundaries of that stance makes a lot of sense to me. And that had considerably higher tax rates than we have today, and it worked. I'm not advocating any individual tax levels, but I think that we should find a way to.
We're running a $2 trillion deficit this year.
Just where I was going.
Okay.
Just where I was going.
Right.
So, Becky, you're looking at me.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. They're running
so
out, but I wanted you to
I have
talk about
a
We're all
diet.
looking at you.
I have a diet that works every time, 100% of the time, which is eat less and exercise more. And so I think we need to spend less and tax more.
And tax more.
And that, I think, is going to be the issue of our era. And as I look at the kind of tax policies and spending policies and the philosophy behind them that have been proposed by the Trump and Harris campaigns, I come down on the side of the Harris campaigns because I think they emphasize fairness around taxes, not tilting toward wealthy individuals and corporations, but small business, middle class, and families. And she also makes some attempt to score to pay for her spending.
I can't
And
wait to
think
get
fiscal
3%. I
discipline-
can't wait to get 3% of your net worth every year.
We can come back to that.
I can't wait for that.
We can come back to that.
And you're going to love how that feels.
That's a chimera. That's one needs
You're
not
going to
worry about.
love that. That's going to
But
feel
we can come
so
back to that
good.
if you'd like, Joe, because I've studied that issue.
Glenn,
Becky.
they're wrapping us, but before we go, I do want to ask you about tonight, the award ceremony at the Hutchins
good, thank you.
W.E.B. Du Bois. What do
Right.
these awards honor?
So the award is fun. So my dear friend Henry Louis Gates, otherwise known as Skip Gates, and I will be having an event tonight in Cambridge, Harvard, to present the W.E.B. Du Bois Medal to people who made extraordinary contributions to African American history, culture, and philanthropy. And it's something we do every year, though we had a little bit of a pandemic hiatus. We're glad to be back. We have LeVar Burton tonight, from Kunta Kinte to Star Trek to Reading Rainbow. We've got Strive Masiyiwa, is a businessman you should know, a very successful African businessman who paid for the distribution of vaccines around Africa during the COVID crisis. New York's own Thelma Golden. I don't know if you guys know Thelma, the director of the Studio Museum in Harlem, one of the great art curators in New York City, about to finish building a brand new studio museum under the leadership of my dear friend Ray McGuire. And Kathy Delaney Smith, who is the longtime Harvard women's basketball coach, who's nearly 700 wins, makes her one of the winningest basketball coaches, men and women, in NCAA history. She's going to be introduced by one of her former star players, Maura Healey, the governor of Massachusetts. So that'll be fun. Please come. It's going to be live streamed on our YouTube channel.
Glenn, I want to thank you
Maybe
for being
next year
here.
on CNBC.
Oh, excellent. And by the way, would love to have you back to talk about the wealth taxes, too.
Okay, only if I can bring the ring.
Yes, 3
Okay.
weeks.
Bring the
We'll see you
ring,
back
and
here.
we'll talk wealth taxes.
I'll be back in 3 weeks.
Glenn Hutchins.
We'll also
All right,
talk
thank
carried
you.
interest.
Okay, you got it.
Okay,
Yeah, there you
you got a deal.
Next on Squawk Pod, the CEO of the leading diagnostic machine companies, Hologic, Steve MacMillan, on the immense potential of AI in healthcare. The future is here.
We are catching one additional cancer for every 10 that are noticed and read by humans.
You're listening to Squawk Pod. Here's Joe Kernen.
Healthcare, always a big issue in presidential elections, but according to a new Gallup poll, 2/3 of Americans aren't as convinced this time around. Joining us now on the future of healthcare, CEO of Hologic, Steve MacMillan, a company that specializes in medical technology for women's health. Steve is also the chairman of Illumina. I guess we can talk about the election in a little while, but you're here for a specific reason, which I think is worthwhile to talk about, and that is breast cancer awareness. 1 out of 8 women, totally curable if you get it early enough, but it's hard to get everyone to do what they need to do because of a lot of myths about mammograms, which you specialize in, right? Mammography.
It is very true. And your breast cancer is eminently treatable when you catch it early.
Most common cancer, too.
Yes,
One out of
most
8.
common. Yes, breast cancer, cervical cancer is very common, but also so treatable when you catch them early. And it is the magic of what we keep trying to do in terms of improving the imaging. Also, our new AI detection is helping. And I'll give you 2 great points on how I think AI can completely take us to a different level. And that is, 1, our new AI detection is showing that versus human radiologists, we are catching 1 additional cancer for every 10 that are noticed and read by humans. So as we put this through, if you think about it, it's image detection. So we're catching 1 more cancer for every 10 using our new AI detection. The other part, and Becky, you can appreciate it, and every woman can appreciate, is we're now seeing a 70% reduction in false positives. So when you think about the false, not only we're catching more, but the false positives, and you think about the workflow and the cost and the emotional toll of false positives, right? The woman gets the call back. Now, hey, we want to see you come back in a couple of weeks from now. You're waiting all that time, and you go back in, and so often there's nothing there. But there's been angst, there's cost, there's taking more time off from work, whatever it might be. So these are, everybody's looking for use cases of AI. These are 2 profound use cases that I think can really help, even reduce these numbers better and better for healthcare.
How many women delayed during the pandemic didn't get the mammograms that they needed to get?
We have numbers, they're kind of all over the place, but as much as 40%, even a year after, it appears still delayed. What happens in life, the women are oftentimes prioritizing the rest of their family, and what's really been bad is through the pandemic, everybody lost sense of time. And what seems like having gone 1 year or 2 years is suddenly 3 or 4. So part of what we're seeing now is picking up cancers that are a little bit more advanced that would have been caught earlier because suddenly a woman realizes it's been 4 years since their last mammogram.
You just described me. This is a wake-up call.
Yeah, you're taking care of the kids, you're taking care of everything else. You get, these guys on set, you're, balancing everything, right? So, and it's back to, my own mother, breast cancer twice, both times caught early, and she is 85 and very healthy now.
Right.
So if you catch it early, it's great.
Doesn't really hurt. The mammogram. It can be a little bit uncomfortable.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
But it
happens. You do it fast.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah,
it's uncomfortable. You can do it
working
fast.
those because our scan times have gotten shorter and shorter, and everything on that.
Dense tissue. You cannot feel density. We have no idea if there's a density. You need to do it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Some other myths. What are some of the no family history? 85% have no family history.
Exactly.
Or
You're on top of this, Joe. Very impressive.
I almost said F and A. I almost said that, but I didn't. I did just say F and A. Yeah. No, I am. And because it's the greatest thing. We may never. It's so hard to cure cancer because every cancer is different. But if you can detect, like a colonoscopy is a no-brainer. If you don't get a colonoscopy, you're out of your mind because it takes a while.
And by the way, there's less discomfort with that. Maybe the pre.
I don't know about
maybe
really.
The pre. Maybe the pre.
It's the mental.
I have my next one Friday.
It's the mental discomfort.
Yes, no, it's the prep. But and it's interesting you talk about dense breast because
prep.
Yeah, the night before. You're almost taking off
for a long time.
You almost can lift above the toilet. It's almost like a rocket ship.
Let's get this back to
all
breast
right, let's get back.
cancer.
So what do you have?
With dense breasts, we're also, our Hologic 3D mammography is the only product approved in the United States for dense breasts. So, which is also, and then again, the AI detection of that, because part of reading the films with dense breasts is there's more fibrous tissue.
So AI is already happening for you.
So, yes, and we've been working on it for years. I know it's become the big buzzword, but what's been fun is we've been bringing these innovations that we've been working on for years and years.
Okay, this is all great news. and it's cost effective over the longer haul for somebody along the way. I guess the question is it cost effective for the hospitals to put these machines in? I would imagine insurance gets, the insurance companies are going to make out over this if you are catching stuff faster, if you are doing it. It's just the upfront cost has to be put in by the hospital or somebody to put these things together. And that's not cheap, it's not easy. And sometimes it's with hospitals that have 1% to 2% profit margins.
Yeah, luckily in the grand scheme, mammography equipment is relatively a lower capital outlay than even, frankly, a lot of the IT systems, MRI machines, CT scanners, all those things that are so much more expensive. So the magic for us is there's a fairly good payback for the hospitals, and the usage is incredible. As you put in a mammogram machine, you can be booking them, full out, frankly, and having the woman coming into the hospitals are very good things.
Do you have to have a more densely populated area where this is happening?
A bit, but even the community hospitals, because the best thing we can do really is getting more people to come to them. So we've also been trying to help work with, particularly communities to make sure that they're bringing their women in, particularly post-COVID, where they may have gone the 3 or 4 years and not even realize it. You can schedule these, you can schedule a lot of mammograms in a day, so these machines can pay off fairly quickly.
How quickly do you get the result?
It is
in this new AI world.
You can get some immediate if the radiologist is right there and reading. The
radiologist never likes to tell you what's going on.
They're not supposed to.
I know they're not supposed to. Let's be honest about it. Can we fix that? Because most times the radiologist who does the work actually knows what's going on, and they're not allowed to tell you. I always
look at them like this,
No, I know. What can we do about this?
We can.
I know, but there's
to a large degree, a lot of them are being read almost simultaneous or within a day, so you're getting results back.
What about the AI reading?
Sometimes the AI reads can happen very quickly. Now, in today's world, they still need to reflex and have, just from a regulatory standpoint, have a doctor actually oversee it so that you're not totally handed off to the machine.
Well, the other
but
problem
most
is
of these
they don't know how
results
to
can be
counsel
within
you.
a day or two.
Right, they don't know how to counsel
point.
you on, if they say, yeah, we see something, they can't counsel you on what's going to happen and what happens. And that's a worse part of prognosis.
But I want the AI to at least tell me. I want to know the initial read, the second read, the third. I look at like waiting for.
I interpret a technician's expression.
I know,
after
it's terrible.
It is. I'm like. Tell my wife, he looked a little.
Look at the thing, what it says.
What's the radiologist going to tell you? Yeah, there's a tumor. Good luck.
No, I go. He seemed fine, and I kind of started asking, and one of them actually said, if it's something really bad, they send you somewhere immediately. They don't just send you home with a long.
The other magic that AI is bringing is, if you think about, there is still a lot of, I hate to say, human error. Yeah. But there is human interpretation of all of these things. And when you think about particularly our 3D, which generates more images, it's generating about 60 images per mammogram. That's a lot of data to absorb. In the AI world, what's great is it can scan it very quickly and then pick it out and send it to the radiologist and say, hey, go look at slide 36. And double check that instead of looking at all 60. And when you think about just the fatigue, I always think about it's like automotive manufacturers. You don't want to get the car that's made Friday afternoon. Right. Exactly. There's a little bit of that. And also the variation that here in New York, you're at the top institutions. As you go out into rural America, as you go to community hospitals or everything else, you might not have a radiologist that is as advanced at reading these things. So that, to me, and particularly as you go around the world, the ability to really automate the reading of these images becomes profoundly better at being able to get both faster results and better results.
What should this stuff actually cost?
What should it actually cost? Well, a mammogram is, call it $100 to $200, is really what they end up being. When you think about the value.
I'm not sure that's true in New York City.
So, all right, but that's generally
but this is what I'm saying. I went to get an MRI, and I remember the guy wanted to charge, I don't know, it was $2,000 or something. I was like, really? Wow. Yeah. That's something. So but they're all trying to advertise these machines.
Yes. So, but they will totally make up for the amortization of those machines well within that range. So, I think about it relative to the cost of prescription drugs. These are cheap. Right? Think about the cost of a prescription drug versus an annual mammogram. at a couple $100.
Or
I'll take
chemotherapy and
I'll take
Well, we
the
didn't get to
mammogram
talk Hologic,
all day long.
or I'm sorry,
So,
Illumina, and there's a lot of AI there too, and,
Oh.
right? But maybe next time.
Yes, there is,
you-
sure.
You can like save all of us
Oh.
with all the hats you're wearing. Right?
a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
So
Come back, Steve.
Thanks.
great to see you.
We don't say
again.
striker anymore. Striker.
No, that's been a long time.
Striker.
12 years, believe it or not.
Yeah, 12
since I
years
was
since
there.
you were at
Since I was there.
Stryker. Oh, my
Used to
God.
bring you the bone saws. I know you always loved those.
Yeah, those bone saws. He's a wrestler.
That was so.
I think he's a wrestler in Spider-Man.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he was a wrestler
All
in
right.
Spider-Man.
There you go, and beyond my
Bone
scope.
saw.
Steve, thanks a lot.
Becky, great to see you. Thanks, Andrew.
And that's the pod for today. Thanks for listening. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern. To get the smartest takes and analysis from our TV show right into your ears, follow Squawk Pod wherever you get your podcasts. We'll meet you back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.